If you didn't get the chance to watch today's UK budget live, honestly, don't worry about it. Most people didn't. A lot of people were working, busy, or let's be real, just didn't have the energy to sit through another long political speech. So in today's video, I'm going to break down everything in a straightforward, conversational way. I'll talk about what was actually announced, what wasn't addressed, how it affects everyday people, and what it could mean for crypto moving forward. And importantly, I want to discuss that feeling many of us keep coming back to, which is, why does it feel like the system just isn't working for ordinary people anymore? If you're new here, I'm Paula. Welcome to the channel. I talk about markets, global events, the psychology of money, and how these bigger forces connect back to crypto. And I try and do it in a way that's clear, honest, and easy to understand. So let's break this budget down properly. When the budget finally dropped today, my first reaction was mixed. Not shocked, not surprised, but definitely not reassured. It wasn't the worst case scenario people were scared of. We didn't get the dramatic hike in capital gains tax, we didn't see huge cuts in ISAs, and we didn't get some big headline-grabbing anti-investment measure. So on the surface, a lot of people will walk away thinking, well, it could have been worse. But I think that's part of the problem. When the bar is on the floor, anything that doesn't kick you while you're down feels like a win, even if nothing actually got better. This budget didn't offer new support for everyday people who feel like they're constantly being squeezed. It didn't offer real relief from the cost of living. It didn't offer more breathing room for savers, families, young people, or people trying to invest in their future. And it certainly didn't offer any innovation or vision when it comes to crypto or technology. What it did instead was almost nothing. A little adjustment here, a freeze there, a technical tweak somewhere else. No major surprises, but no real solutions either. And I think that's why so many people walk away from budget day feeling the same way they did before it. The system still doesn't feel like it's on your side. Let's talk about something the budget didn't fix, and honestly, didn't really even fully acknowledge. For years now, people have felt like they're running up a down escalator. Everything costs more. Food, rent, utilities, fuel, council tax, childcare. Even basic savings accounts and taxes feel heavier than ever. People aren't imagining it. It's not in their heads. It's not panic or misunderstanding the numbers. It's real. And today's budget didn't offer meaningful relief. The government can say inflation is easing. They can say wages have risen. They can point to graphs that show stabilisation. But the lived experience tells a different story. People feel like every time they get a little ahead, something gets more expensive. Budgets are supposed to help people breathe. This one, I don't think it did that. And that's where we get into the deeper problem. Not party politics, not point scoring, not blame, but something more fundamental. A lot of people feel like the system itself isn't built to support their financial life anymore. So let's connect this to crypto, because it does link. Crypto doesn't only move because of charts or news or technical levels. Crypto moves because of people. When you feel confident about the future, when you feel like you're getting ahead, when your wages cover your expenses and you've got leftover money to invest, you start exploring new opportunities. You get curious, you take risks, you invest. But when the system squeezes you, slowly, quietly, and consistently, your relationship with money changes. You stop dreaming, you stop planning, you stop thinking long term. You just try to survive the month. And here's the strange twist. That loss of trust in traditional systems is exactly what pushes people towards crypto. Crypto isn't just an asset. For a lot of people, it represents a psychological escape, a different lane, a different set of rules, a different possibility. It's not that people think crypto is perfect. It's that the system they're in already feels broken. And today's budget does nothing to change that feeling. A lot of people were worried about capital gains taxes. And to be fair, given how much the allowance has been eroded over the last few years, it's understandable. Today, there was no new capital gains hike, no new rules targeting crypto-specific gains, no big shake-up. But again, that doesn't tell the full story. The allowance is still tiny. It used to be over £12,000 per year. Now, it's £3,000. And this means even small gains, tiny wins, can push ordinary people into the tax system, not because they're wealthy, not because they're doing anything extreme, but because the thresholds no longer match reality. So even without raising capital gains tax today, the pressure on normal investors is heavier than ever. And if you're in crypto, where gains can be irregular, volatile, and unpredictable, that pressure feels more intense. There's no breathing room anymore, no safety net for small or new investors, no margin for error. And when the system gives you no wiggle room, everything feels like a risk. One of the most important changes coming for UK crypto holders wasn't mentioned in today's speech at all. From 2026, under the global CAR framework, crypto exchanges will begin automatically reporting crypto transactions to tax authorities. That includes buys, sells, transfers, cross-platform movements, and for some exchanges, even wallet withdrawals. People need to understand something. This is not a UK-only rule. This is global. Once this goes live, you won't need to tell HMRC what you earned from crypto. They'll already know. So why wasn't that mentioned today? Because the government doesn't need to introduce it. It's already coming, already agreed, already planned, already in motion. Today's budget was the quiet warm-up, the groundwork, the system slowly preparing itself. And that is why it matters. Not because anything changed today, but because things are very clearly changing in the next year or two. But there's a bigger, more honest question. Who is the system actually built for? This is something I think a lot of people feel in their gut, but don't always have the words for. When you look at the budget, and this applies to multiple governments over many years, you start to see a pattern. The system doesn't really bend for ordinary people. It doesn't cushion them. It doesn't adapt to their struggles. It doesn't reflect the reality they live in. It's slow to react, slow to change, and slow to support. And at the same time, it's incredibly quick to tighten the rules, reduce allowances, freeze thresholds, or quietly expand enforcement. This isn't about which party's in power. It's about the structure itself, a structure that feels outdated, rigid, and designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. People aren't angry because of politics. People are angry because the maths of their life doesn't add up anymore. And nobody seems to fix that. That's the deeper feeling people walk away with after days like today. And when that traditional system feels out of reach, people start to look elsewhere. Some go to property, some go to gold, some go to cash, and some go to crypto. Crypto speaks to a very real emotional experience people are having. The feeling that the existing structures aren't working for them. Crypto gives people flexibility, mobility, options, hope. And it gives people something the system rarely gives them anymore, a sense of possibility. That's why moments like today matter. Not because the budget directly affected Bitcoin, it didn't, but because the budget reinforces the feeling that ordinary people are always at the bottom of the list. Up to this point, we've talked about the general tone of today's budget, but let's get specific about what was actually implemented. Almost everything continued the same trend we've been seeing for years. It's getting harder for ordinary people to get ahead, even when the headline numbers look harmless. Take the income tax thresholds. They were frozen again. Now that might sound boring or technical, but in reality is one of the biggest stealth taxes out there. As people's wages rise slightly, often just keeping up with inflation, they get dragged into higher tax bands without actually being better off. On paper, nothing changes, but in real life, people end up paying more tax simply for surviving rising costs. And then we get into ISAs, something a lot of people rely on as one of the last stable, straightforward ways to save without feeling like the system is taking a slice of everything. Today's budget did include an ISA change, but not the kind that people were hoping for. The government announced that the cash ISA allowance will drop from £20,000 to £12,000, starting April 2027, and that only applies to people under 65. Anyone 65 or above can still put the full £20,000 into a cash ISA. Now, it's important to be precise here. The total ISA allowance is still £20,000. That hasn't changed. You can still place £20,000 a year across your various ISAs, cash, stocks, and shares. But reducing the cash ISA allowance matters because the cash ISA is the most accessible, least risky option for everyday savers. Not everybody wants to put their money into the stock market. Not everyone is comfortable with volatility or long investment horizons. For a lot of people, the cash ISA is the safe choice. the one place they felt like the rules weren't constantly shifting. So even though the overall limit remains, shrinking the cash ISA allowance still hits normal savers. There was no help for renters, nothing significant for young people trying to get onto the property ladder, no fresh relief for families who are dealing with rising childcare and living costs. The problem we've got is today's budget didn't do anything to rebuild trust in traditional savings or investment systems. It reinforced a feeling that the path to financial security inside the system is narrowing and financial pressures widen. And when people feel boxed in, when they don't feel supported, and when their choices inside the system shrink, they naturally start exploring things outside of it. And that's how crypto enters the conversation, even in a budget where it wasn't mentioned once. So what does all this mean for the future? For crypto specifically, this budget didn't change the landscape dramatically, but it reinforces a very clear direction. Traditional systems remain tight, breathing room is limited, savings routes are narrowing, reporting is expanding, especially with the 2026 crypto reporting coming, and people feel increasingly disconnected from the structures that are meant to support them. Crypto isn't going anywhere. If anything, the environment that pushes people towards it is becoming stronger. Not because the government pushed them there, not because this budget was extreme, but because people are tired of feeling like financial progress is slipping further out of reach. Crypto represents movement. The traditional system represents gridlock. And on a day like today, the contrast feels sharper than ever. So that's the full breakdown of what today's budget actually did, and what it didn't do, and what it signals about the system we're all trying to navigate. If you want to understand how we deal with these kind of moments, where the system feels tight and the future feels uncertain, our Crypto Wolfpack is the perfect place to be. We've also put together a completely free course inside the Crypto Wolfpack community. It teaches you the exact strategies we use in both bull markets and bear markets, and it's designed for normal people who just want to understand the markets without overwhelm. You'll find the link in the description below. Let me know in the comments how you felt about today's budget. Did anything surprise you? Or does it just feel like more of the same? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.